Into the radius. Into the radius.
Into the radius. Into the radius.
When was the last time you were so drawn into a game that you just walked around exploring every nook and cranny, not saying a word? Just taking in every detail, eyes wide, slack-jawed, maybe occasionally reacting to an unexpected sound. For me, it was just a few days ago when I finally decided to try Into the Radius. Before that, maybe Skyrim VR, after I got it to stop crashing under the weight of all the mods it takes to actually make it a good game. But other than that, I can't remember the last time I felt like that firing up a new game. The VR equivalent of Stalker had been sitting in my library waiting to be played for a couple months, but had been passed up because, well, shiny new things kept coming out and I wanted to try those first. But after seeing a few videos from a Stalker Gamma series on YouTube, I had caught the post-apocalyptic Eastern Bloc bug. I ended up reinstalling Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl and spent a day making some serious progress preparing to play Into the Radius the next day. After about 8 hours, I had covered several different map locations, completed quite a few quests, and started to unravel the mystery that is the game's main plot. Losing a whole hour of unsafe progress brought an end to that session, but that's not important. What is important is that I was cruising in Stalker. And the next day, when I booted up Into the Radius, I sunk 4.5 hours into the game. The next session was another 3 hours. And after spending almost the same amount of time as I did on Stalker, I still haven't left the first area of the Pechorsk zone, and honestly, I've barely progressed the story. This is a really good thing, though, I promise. While some of that time was spent specifically getting clips for that goofy intro, the majority of the time I've put into this game is just walking around in complete awe. This game is frighteningly beautiful, even on low settings being pumped through a 1080. I'm kinda terrified even thinking what this game feels like on a modern build. The visuals, the sounds, the ultra creepy atmospheric setting.
I don't wanna.
They all play into creating the most immersive VR experience I've had so far. Based on some very light research, it's my understanding that the game has always been incredibly immersive and atmospheric, but the last few updates have really helped push it over the top with some graphics updates and a bit of tidying up to the story. For the record, I am very invested in the main story. However, I'm also very easily distracted by all the cool and dangerous stuff in Pervame Route. Which, by the way, is one of the smallest and probably least interesting of the several zones I know you can visit. And actually, as I'm sitting here recording this and double-checking a map, I just realized I haven't even explored all of Pervame yet. Now, I don't typically enjoy these sort of spooky, scary games,
I hate it here.
but Into the Radius utilizes a kind of creepy atmospheric tension, or like a looming promise of danger occasionally interrupted by the sounds of the zone's inhabitants, that sets it apart from things like cheap jump scares. And I think this tension is amplified by the loneliness you experience when you finally realize that you're apparently the only living being at the safe zone, and all of your interactions are through computer screens and a PA system. All of this, combined with a super simple backpack inventory system and clean survival gameplay mechanics, sort of makes me forget that I'm just standing in my living room playing a game. And I love that. There was actually a point where I started to feel a little uneasy in the middle of the day in my own house because a mimic was walking around nearby in-game while I was gathering supplies. Fortunately, Mama didn't raise no fool. When traveling into the zone, Falcon always stays strapped with the latest and greatest in Security Level 1 weaponry, from the humble PM to the classic Papa Shaw. Wait, what the
What have you done to my boy?
But more importantly, Falcon maintains his weapons between trips to the zone because, as we all know, dirty guns make dead explorers. Hanging out in my trendy little shipping container apartment, loading mags, one bullet at a time, wiping my guns down with oil and scrubbing out the barrels to make sure they stay in like-new condition, it's actually way less monotonous and mundane than I thought it would be, and really adds another layer to that immersion that I keep jabbering on about. It really only took one instance of a crusty pistol jamming up while this demon spider jumped me to really convince me of the importance of keeping your shit in order. And between your near-death experiences, you can return here to sleep, play guitar, organize supplies, or listen to super scary audio recordings that you found out in the zone. Have fun. I ended up stealing a bunch of stuff from all around the safe zone to decorate my living quarters, including this cake, but no one seems to be around to miss it, so finders keepers. Also, I'm a little embarrassed to admit how happy I was when I found out you could actually eat the cake.
Oh my god. I hate the birthday cake.
I know, humans evolved into highly intelligent beings around 150,000 years ago, or something like that, but there's still a little chimp in all of us that enjoys the simple things in life, okay? Simple things like bringing food and drink up to your face to consume it in a VR game. But the thing that convinced me Into the Radius was the most immersive game yet was this simple cigarette.
That is so weird. I can feel that on my face.
For those of you who have never played VR, or who don't know about phantom senses, some people can strap on a headset and feel certain things touching them in VR, most often other players in games like VR Chat, all through the power of the mind. I had never felt that and just thought it was something I never would. Maybe I had already become too used to VR, or maybe I just was able to make that distinction more easily. But, as it turns out, that's not true. This was the first game to ever cause me to experience any kind of phantom sense, and it was the moment that I brought this cigarette up to my lips. It felt like I had just put a straw in my mouth, and the whole time it was there, I could physically feel it. And it was blowing my freaking mind. By the way, smoking is bad, okay? I just want to put that out there. Now, I could go on waxing poetic about how unreasonably engaging, unimaginably engrossing, and utterly captivating Into the Radius is, but I actually want to admit that it's not totally perfect. I mean, what is really? But as good as the handling is for the weapons, food, and objects, all of these things still have fixed grip points, which you don't see in all VR games, but it sort of reminds you that you are still just in a game. You mostly notice it when trying to place objects or clean your weapons, usually because there's a pretty uncomfy bend in the wrist or maybe some weird clipping happening. Worse than that, though, is the entire body of your character being tracked by your face. I see this a lot in VR games, and I get why it is this way, I do. But leaning your head over a surface and standing on top of it as a result, it's always going to be jarring and kind of frustrating to me. Oh, and lastly, is these doors.
Why won't you stay shut?
Anyway, the positives so heavily outweigh the negatives in this game that it's stupid easy to just look past them. So, I mean, that's what I'll do. I won't let my minor criticisms get in the way of exploring the Pechorsk zone and learning about this spooky little ghost girl. Besides, I feel like I'm only just scratching the surface when it comes to how great this game really is. Now, you might be thinking I have no right to pass criticism anyway, with only 8 hours on the clock. And you're probably right, but it really didn't take long for this game to thoroughly impress me. And besides, I figured if I didn't slam through all the things this game has to offer right away, I can really milk it for content. I can start a fun little series on the game chronicling my adventures in the zone. If you do want to see a series of gameplay videos out in the zone, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll know if or when that happens. And if you think I'm a goober who's easily impressed and doesn't know what he's talking about, well, I'd really prefer if you said something nicer, but if you gotta get it out, I guess you can tell me that in the comments too. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this video, even if it was just a chuckle. Maybe I'll see you again in the next video, where I'll probably be trying really hard not to barf in an airplane. Okay, bye now.